Hello and welcome to another live stream. So, first thing I'm going to say straight off the bat is I've been ill, so there's going to be some coughing. In fact, I can feel one coming on. No, I can't. So there's going to be some coughing. I'll do it away from the mic, obviously, but like you're going to have to bear with that. Um, hopefully it's like getting autumny now in the UK, so the lighting isn't as good, and I haven't sorted out my light situation, but like hopefully what I've done is all right, and it looks all right. Just anyone in the chat, if you can hear me and I haven't been talking to myself, like let me know. But so basically today, we're going to be taking a look at the 2016. Great, thanks. I'm not going to pronounce your whole name, but Terry. Yeah, so today we're going to be looking at the 2016 Antinatalist film called The EFIList, and that is by Amanda Sukenick, also the name of old fan, and and I didn't want to delay the stream, so that's why we're bearing with the coughing. By Amanda Sukenick. And full disclosure, I've seen this film before, but it was about 2-ish years ago, so I can't remember a lot of it. And after we finish the like watching the EFIList, we've got a special guest afterwards who I will announce once we finish watching the film. So I don't think there's anything else we really need to go through before we dive in. So get comfortable, get your popcorn, and let's go for it. Right, I will share my screen. Fuck me. Luckily, we're going to be watching the film for most of this. So I'm just going to play it. Let me know if there's any audio issues. I think I've sorted them out from last time, hopefully. But yeah, let me know if there's any issues. Coolio. All right, okay, so let's go. Again, let me know if there's any audio issues.
Hello, fellow sentient. I am the janitor.
Oh, and actually, I've just thought of what I might do is because obviously you guys aren't watching it from your from your end. So if subtitles are going to be put on, it's probably best if I put them on. So sorry if anyone finds it annoying. I'll put subtitles on, just for the benefit of fucking Polish subtitles. What the fuck? Yeah, I'll put English subtitles on just for the benefit of anyone who's watching and may need them.
And I'm here to present to you a full summation of the history and reality of sentient life on planet Earth. How we got here and what this thing we call life is doing. Let's have a little conversation about what life really is. Of its poor construction, its unintelligent design, its futility, its cruelty. And then let's further our conversation by discussing why it should never be imposed. Yes, that's right. Life is an imposition. So, let's talk about the meaning of life. Let's start from the beginning, shall we? For whatever reason, the universe initiated. The Big Bang. Aberrant science runs amok. Crude mechanics, crude physics, matter and energy. High energy.
Sorry to pause it again, but I actually really like I really like that like I don't know, because obviously like this like movie is going to go into ethics and philosophy a bit, but Amanda, um, when she was making this, like took it right back to basics, like right back to as far as we're aware, the start of the universe, and took it back to just like the fundamentals, or takes it back to the fundamentals, which like personally I really like, because I don't know if other people's minds work like this, but sometimes if I'm given like a thought or a fact that just in isolation, I don't get it, or it doesn't like fully, the significance of it doesn't really fully hit me. Like I often need someone to like go down to the foundations of things, and then build up from there and show me like the structure that the fact sits in, if you get what I mean. So at least for me, just the way my brain works, which is fucked. The way my brain works. I really like that like Amanda went back to basics.
Photons smashing, crushing, pressurizing, creating elements. It's a mixing bowl. It's a chemistry set gone wild, with all the ingredients leaking into each other, commingling, lots of bad ingredients mixing badly. And then gravity and nuclear forces start tying matter into bigger and bigger pieces, forming stars and planets, and of course with them, Earth. And on Earth, energized atoms formed compounds, and after bouncing around for a few billion years, something happened. The universe, up until this point, was certainly violent, but benign, free of sentient creatures, and therefore free of suffering. But all that changed when the tragedy of abiogenesis occurred. The first reproducing cell, DNA, our one single ancestor, the seed of sentient print media. And so, life arose in many mechanical forms. And eventually, life became conscious. We became sentient. And then, perhaps the most pitiless step in all of our evolution, the first ouch. And this was truly the beginning of all problems in the universe.
Yeah, so I wanna stop there, because I think this is important. Like a lot of people, and I'm not just talking like antinatalism here. There are some people that, or maybe there are like a lot of people, that like restrict their like opposition to creating new beings just to humans. I'm so sorry about this coughing. Anyway, so, but I don't think like antinatalism is the only ethic that like structuring it around sentience is important. I think it's all ethics. You get it in, like if you're talking about animal rights, like and you're talking to people who aren't vegan, like you come across this all the time. Like people think that like humans are the important ones, we're the ones that matter, and either like other sentient life, it just doesn't matter at all, or it matters to like a lot less degree. They see like species like this, they put this wall around like the human species because they think like we're special in some way. Like obviously we have certain characteristics that make us different from like other life forms, but we're not like morally speaking, we're not like, there's not this hard line between humans and other species. But you come across this all the time, and I think it's just like maybe it's just built into our biology just to care about our species more. But like the mental gymnastics people do to try and keep that sort of like artificial barrier that they've put around humans up, like some of the tricks they do in the mental gymnastics are quite impressive. But I think like what Amanda has done here, or like the focus on sentience, I think is really good, and just going back right to the root of there first there was no life, then there was life, and then there was sentient life, and it's when sentient life formed that ethics really became like something that would be significant. Like obviously, like if there was someone to think about things ethically, like I'm sure even though these animals weren't, they were sentient, they probably didn't think in like moral ways or whatever. Whereas a lot of people, whether they be religious or just like or atheist, but still like very anthropocentric, they would maybe argue that like morally relevant things didn't start to happen until humans came around, which is obviously bullshit. But whatever. Cool. Okay, let's go. But yeah, so that's why I think it's important to focus on sentience, because there is still a strong anthropocentric bias in ethics. When it's not human that is the characteristic that's morally relevant, it's the fact that you can suffer.
The most precious thing in the entire material universe is the capacity for a consciousness to generate a sensation of horror and unpleasantness, to be harmed and to suffer. That is where all value, not just some value, but all value is generated, in the consciousness of sensitive, sentient creatures. So nature created better and better gladiators, directed and steered by the molecule, with the powerful motivators of pain and pleasure. Propelled by our want, our deprivation, to enter the maze game of ambition, desire, and delusion.
Yeah, I think Amanda's probably going to go into it more, but I think the the gladiator analogy is really good, because definitely prior to the modern day, you can maybe somewhat argue that it's different now that humans have become as advanced as we are, because it somewhat changes the dynamics, because now we can actually act in certain ways with the technology and understanding we have to help improve the situation. That doesn't mean we're doing that. Like a lot of what humans are doing, in fact probably most of what humans are doing, is still fucking things up and hurting others. But at least we have the capacity, which changes the dynamic. Whereas before humans came around, with that capacity, it literally was just a big gladiator ring, like different species feeding off other species in this sort of like a gladiator ring that they didn't ask to be put into. But now they were like they create each other out of no sort of rational process. They're just following their own desires and instincts and bringing each other into existence, and then just eating each other alive or getting parasites, and obviously the parasites are other species who want to survive, and they've got to feed off each other. So the only way that sentient life or life generally can survive, obviously not herbivorous, but herbivorous are chucked in the mix. They're not just like some separate group of, they're not like physically separate from all the other animals. Like all of these animals are just chucked into an arena, and they're just like eating each other, competing with each other, living in fear of each other often. Yeah, it's fucking horrible. And the gladiator analogy is quite good, because they're all put in a situation that they didn't ask to be in. My understanding is that gladiators were put there because they're slaves for entertainment. I'm not sure if any of them would opt to go in, but maybe some maybe some gladiators consented to going in, like back in the day. If they did, then I'm not talking about them, but they do all of this. They kill each other, they harm each other, again just following instinct and desire. It's not doing it they're not doing it out of any sort of malice, as far as I can understand anyway. And what is it all for? It's just so that they can then stand on top of the pile of bodies and say, well, I've won, I get to reproduce, and then my kid goes through the same meat grinder. I mean, if there is a god, they introduced a pretty fucked state of affairs.
Human beings came from apes, and being raw animals, we didn't know how to control our world yet. We had to acquire our knowledge of everything. So we played the game, we picked and scratched at the world, trying to learn how it works. We refined our intelligence. But all of human history, we've struggled to accept the truth. We've given magic powers to crystals, we've phantasmagoricalized the truth.
Even, we're only 4 minutes in. Amanda's gone through so many costumes already. I wonder if all the costumes still exist in some bag somewhere, or if they didn't make it post-production or whatever. But yeah, Amanda, you really went the whole. Amanda's watching, by the way. Amanda, you really went the whole hog on the creative side of things.
Trees and the dark and the animals. And at some point, We became smart enough to think up the dumb idea of God as an explanation for life. We had become smart enough to become superstitious, but not smart enough to know that's all we were doing. We had drawn the wrong conclusion.
Well, it was done for a lot of us, but there were probably some people that benefited from it quite a lot. I don't know, some guy, like, I don't know, like, obviously I don't know if this is how it actually played out, but you can just imagine some, like, goat herder in the Middle East in some sort of irrelevant mountain valley thinking, oh, this is shit, what am I doing with my life? Maybe I should tell people that I was, like, conceived miraculously from this guy, like, way up there. But my mum's still a virgin. And that I am, like, the son of the supreme creator of all of the earth. Like, I'll do it just for banter. And then it actually caught on. Like, I don't know. There were probably some smart people that were around at the beginnings of religion, and they were, like, fucking cashing in on that shit. But yeah, for most people, it was a fucking dumb idea.
Conclusions. And we have sentenced billions upon billions of lives, both animal and human animal, to those wrong conclusions, as well as nearly an infinite number of other bad ideas. We are addicted. But amongst the din, amongst the falderal and celebration and parades, a few voices have expressed a different idea about life. An idea that articulates that life is a failed experiment, that to create it is an imposition, and that it is simply wrong to create need for no need. Simply stated, that it is unethical to procreate. Don't have kids. There's no reason for a parade after all. You are doomed.
I like that Amanda's, like, very direct in the script. Like, she literally says, don't have kids. Maybe someone could say, oh, the adoption. Like, obviously she's not talking about adoption. She's saying don't procreate. Because, obviously this is Amanda just making the, this is her, like, brainchild as a art piece, right? But, like, there are so many documentaries, and yeah, they're slightly different because they're, like, big budget, they're run by, like, corporation or whatever. But there are so many documentaries that they are talking about a subject where they're kind of trying to influence your behavior, and they just don't come out and say it. Like, a lot of them are, like, one obvious topic is, like, the environmental topic. There's a lot of documentaries about the environment that kind of hint at things that individual people can do to reduce their carbon footprint. And they always just, like, beat around the bush. And it's like, okay, if you have a message and you want to try and influence people's behavior, like, just be open about it. Don't be some sort of, like, sneaky little, do you get what I mean? Like, don't pretend like don't pretend like you're not trying to influence people's behavior, which is fine. Like, if you want to put a message together in the form of a documentary to try and influence people's behavior, go for it. Like, I enjoy often watching those documentaries, but, like, be open about it. And I like that Amanda's done that here. Like, it's very clear that, like, the documentary has this story and this narrative that it's bringing together, but it makes the message, like, very clear, and it's very open about what is the intention of the documentary or the movie, is to try and provide people with an alternative way of seeing the world, with maybe some, new ideas and facts that they may not have been presented with before. And then ultimately with the intention, hopefully, of them changing their behavior and being influenced by what they've seen. And Amanda is just, like, open about that, which, like, I think is good, but I also appreciate, because there are so many, like, documentaries that just beat around the bush.
And this idea is called antinatalism. Not many have spoken about antinatalism in the past, but among them there has been Arthur Schopenhauer. If children were brought into the world by an act of pure reason alone, would the human race continue to exist?
Best costume so far.
Peter Zapffe. A coin is turned around before it is handed to a beggar. Yet a child is unflinchingly tossed into cosmic bruteness. And Emile Choron, to name a few. We have lost being born as much as we shall lose dying. Everything. Then there was EFILism. It's antinatalism plus. It's life spelt backwards. It's just another way of saying, I believe there is something fundamentally broken in the natural mechanism of the circumstance we call life. Just another way of raising your hand and saying, yes, it is unintelligent design. No God created this. And life existing as the product of that unintelligent design has real negative consequences on sentient creatures. Evolution has consequences. Unintelligent design is going to create huge volumes of waste and sloppiness. Unintelligent design means an ocean of suffering. Unintelligent design means insufficient sufficiency, and that insufficiency is not only deep within the system.
It's just the pause to pause on the unintelligent design thing. Like obviously that there's the whole thing of like religion. They have the intelligent design argument, and this is a play on it. It's about an unintelligent design. But like there's a lot of like atheists out there, or people who just don't believe in any sort of deity, which maybe the term atheist captures all of those. But basically, like secular people who they don't believe in intelligent design in a sort of theistic way. They're not like making that argument, but they like always stand in awe of nature, and they think like, oh, isn't it amazing that my body can do this, or nature has created this, or blah, blah, blah. And like, I just don't, I can appreciate the complexity of like nature and stuff and how things interact. Like, sure, I can understand, like, I can appreciate the complexity, but like, would I go as far as to call it intelligent? Like, at a very base level, it just doesn't seem intelligent to me, because it's just pointless. Like, why would you create all of this? Well, there's no creator, so I guess that is like a moot point. So ignoring that point, the other reason I don't think it's intelligent is because, it doesn't have because they're not saying there's a creator as well. Okay, it doesn't. I don't know why they use the word intelligent then, because in intelligent seems to imply that there's some sort of like creator behind it. But let's ignore the word intelligent for the atheist people then. They stand in awe of what happens in nature, and I just like don't really. I can appreciate the complexity, but just there are so many things that we're so used to that are just dumb, but we don't notice them because we're so used to them. So just just talking about humans for now, ignoring everything else in the world. Like, we have to sleep like a third of our time. We get sick, like, I don't know how sick the average person gets, like one or two times a year. Like, we're so prone to injury. We're so we're so delicate when you look at like the grand scheme of things. We have so many like cognitive biases that lead us like prone to thinking along like illogical lines. We have to eat. We have to like regularly clean ourselves. Like, all of these things. These don't. Okay, like Annie Ruth in the chat says sleeping is the best part. Fair point. Well, then you have to be awake 2/3 of the day. Like, all of these things just don't seem like a intelligent, efficient. If you look at the human like body as like some sort of machine or an object of like appreciation or whatever, it just doesn't seem intelligently put together to me. Like, I'm an idiot, and if I was gonna put together like a machine, I could think of some easy upgrades, like having our own like food source, like our own power source, not having to sleep, like all of these sorts of things. Yeah, like not having a blind spot in our eye. Like these are just all products of evolution, and some people just stand in awe, and it just, I don't know, it just makes no sense to me to stand in awe of this sort of stuff.
But that the products of the system, the living things themselves, are likewise not functioning efficiently. They consume more than they produce. We throw need machines into a world from which they can never derive satisfaction without imposing unsatisfied need onto something else. So I will use terms like zero-sum game to describe life, because life does precisely that. We steal energy perpetually, all to replicate a DNA molecule. A molecule that understands nothing of the price paid in suffering by the sentient creatures of this planet.
Yeah, that's another thing I don't think people like. Obviously, for for ethics and the day-to-day lives of people, like, it's not really important to them. But I actually don't think many people like fully like even realize the fact that like the only reason we're here is because we are tools being used by an unconscious molecule like DNA. Like if DNA did not need us, you know, or we weren't advantageous to its replication, like it wouldn't have brought us about, right? Through the process of evolution by natural selection. Like, we're just pawns in an evolutionary game. Now, that doesn't, you know, obviously we have our own individual autonomy, and we can step out of that, which is what antinatalists are doing, right? Like, we're looking behind us and looking at like the sheer path of destruction that has been caused by the evolutionary process so far, and just going, nah, I don't think I'm gonna carry that on. And just like, yeah, using our agency to like think critically about the unthinking process that's causing so much suffering that sort of like we are biologically a part of. And like, I think that's very admirable. Like, a lot of people, they just go about living their like lives, you know, not totally by their biological desires, but definitely in terms of procreation by their like biological desires, right? And even some people who think about this like on a moral level, like there are plenty of people out there who have who have been fuck me who've been exposed to antinatalism and agree with it, right? But their biological desire to have a kid, or their cultural desire, wherever it comes from, their biological drive to have sex, and maybe their cultural / biological desire to have a kid, it just takes over. Usually when they get into their like late 20s, early 30s, hormones get flowing, and they either don't want to, or they can't stand in the way of these like millions of years or billions of years of evolutionary force behind them. You know, which is sad, because you would hope that people would have like more moral backbone. And I don't want to be harsh to these people, because I get it. Like, I had the same, like, one of the reasons I got a vasectomy is because like I know I don't want to be contributing to that. I don't want to be doing that. But when I get to my late 20s, early 30s, I don't know what sort of emotional things may come over. Like I hope I wouldn't be that person, and I don't think I am. But like, it's just a fail-safe. And I think actually Michael from Vegan Space Scientist says this in one of his videos. He said one of the reasons that he got he got a vasectomy is when people said to him, you know, oh, what if you change your mind? And he said, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm getting the vasectomy, because I think I've pretty much got the ethics down. So really the only reason I would change my mind is because of my emotions or my hormones, you know, or like I meet someone, I get into a long-term relationship with someone, they want kids and I crumble to the pressure. Like, I don't want to be that like beta energy cuck Like, I want to act in accordance with my ethics, and if I can put a failsafe in, in the way of me falling to my like biological desires and like just my instinct, then I'm going to do that. And that was one of the reasons that I got vasectomy as well. Because, like, humans are fallible. I can be a fucking idiot sometimes. Like, not to that extent, usually, but I don't know what stupid stuff I could do in my future. Like, I could do a lot of dumb shit. That's one of the reasons. It's not the only reason that I got it.
We should be awestruck contemplating 4 billion years of sentient creatures ripping apart other feeling sentient creatures. Continued only out of ignorance, ego, and notions rolling around in heads about life being good. Ignoring with every breath.
Yeah, literally, like, imagine, like, well, not the only reason, because some people have kids by accident and stuff, but, a key reason that we're all here, people watching this stream, is because our parents, one time, or for a period of time, they had this idea in their head where they thought, you know what, creating someone seems like a pretty cool idea. And now, like, we have to do this fucking shit.
The truth. If it wasn't for that stupid meteor impact, we'd have none of this grace and beauty and love and art. We know where 99.999% of life has been. It's only a tiny fraction, one grain of sand in an entire beach of time that human beings have spent contemplating how joyous and wonderful life is. Life is a replicating and reproducing piece of DNA. For no rhyme or reason, for no purpose, to satisfy no destiny, to do none of that. It's just an accident of biology, of aberrant chemistry. We reject this game. EFILism is knowing that life is an imposition. EFILism is understanding that all value in the universe is derived from the conscious experience of sentient feeling creatures. EFILism is the janitorial duty of trying to have a conversation with the human race about wasted suffering and the responsibility of manufacturing a graceful exit. And that's where I come in as janitor, and your first lesson is, life is consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction. That is what it is. Those are the ingredients that make up the reality of life on planet Earth. We consume so that we may reproduce. And on an island planet in an otherwise barren universe, we cannibalize each other. And fueling it all are our addictions, our crazed psychologies, our egos, our wants, our...
Honestly, I think, Amanda is using these acronyms as a way to describe how life behaves, like, generally. But if we talk about, like, human procreation, and just, like, people we all know, like, it is kind of an addiction. Like, the way people talk about their, like, desire to create someone. I've spoken to people who are usually, like, very rational, like, very clear-headed. They got a good head on their shoulders. And I talk to them about antinatalism. And, like, so many times when I've been speaking to someone, they have said, look, Lawrence, I'd never heard this idea before. I understand what you're saying. And I actually kind of agree with you. But I'm going to do it anyway because I want to. Like, they understand, like, the suffering they're putting on someone and the fact that they're causing someone else to die. And, like, all the risk that comes with that as well. But they're so addicted to this idea that they're still going to... they're willing to put that on someone else, and they're willing to take a gamble, with with their own life as well. Like, they don't know how they're, if they didn't have a kid, it seems to me they would probably have more autonomy on how their life is going to go, because they wouldn't have a dependent, and they would have more resources at their disposal to be able to, control their life path. And so if they didn't procreate, they would have more, control over how their life turns out, and they can steer it in ways where it's going to be more fulfilling, enjoyable, that sort of stuff. But they're so addicted to this idea of having a kid that they want to take the gamble, because they don't know that having a child is going to make their life better, let alone the results for the child itself. They don't know if they're going to have a child that has some sort of like debilitating condition, and then they and their partner have to be lifelong carers for that child, which I think they would then be obliged to be lifelong carers, because like they're the ones that put the kid in that situation. Kid didn't ask to be in that situation. So and even when you tell them that, they're like, I'll take the gamble. So I think it is an addiction. Like, I don't know if it would clinically be called an addiction, like in the same way that, like heroin could, but like it seems like that sort of vibe.
Desires. We are addicted, insatiable, need machines. So now let's begin. Let's start with an easy one first. Perhaps a familiar tale to show you what you already know about the folly of imposing new life. This is reproduction.
Okay, no, Arthur Schopenhauer has been trumped. This is the best costume so far.
Once in a castle long ago, there lived Dr. Frankenstein. The doctor was an evil, sadistic shithead of a fucktard who delighted in creating and imposing life on as many beings as possible. Must populate! In his lab, the doctor had two powerful buttons, one big green button and one big red button. Dr. Frankenstein...
You know who this reminds me of? This reminds me of like the long-termist crowd, like effective altruism sort of long-termist crowd. Like they just have this like zeal, is zeal the right word? But they just have this like urge, this such desire to like see so many people come into existence. Like, that big German channel, what's it called, like Kurzgesagt or whatever, they did a video with Will McCaskill about long-termism, and it was literally like, we could bring trillions of people into the world. Like, they just like, they go off on one, and this reminds me of that.
Never press the red button, because it was the big red button, capable of ending all existence in the universe instantaneously. Why is this even here? But Dr. Frankenstein loved his big green button, for whenever it was pressed, it allowed him to create strong, healthy, and beautiful creatures who were the happiest people the world had ever known.
That's literally how long-termists look. When I see them like writing articles or doing videos or whatever, they literally look like that.
However, for every 10 of these stupid happy creatures, a Frankenstein monster was born. Life sucks. Hideous, diseased, blighted with 1,000 horrors, miserable. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, I talked about this like concept in my Omelas video recently. Like, every like new generation that is created, we're just creating a new Omelas, because if anyone doesn't know, Omelas is like this city where everyone has amazing lives, but they have the amazing lives because one kid is in a basement suffering, right? And a lot of people who read about that story, they're like, oh shit, I wouldn't want my happiness to come from the suffering of someone else. But what they don't realize is what this means for procreation is that, every time we bring a new generation into existence, there are going to be some people who are going to have shit lives, and a lot of them end up killing themselves, right? And all of the good lives that that are created in that generation, they don't exist in a vacuum. They come at the expense of the bad ones, so it's like, sure, it's good, given that there are kids that exist, it's good that there are lots of kids who are in playgrounds all around the world having a fun time at birthday parties, but they can't exist without there also existing cancer wards full of kids, right? Like, you don't get one without the other. And every time we create someone new, we're rolling the dice for them, and we don't know which, are they going to be in the playground or the birthday party, or are they going to be in the cancer ward? Don't know.
Out! And vanished. Some Frankenstein monsters couldn't take it and killed themselves. Others realized that if they killed themselves, Dr. Frankenstein would just keep on making more monsters, more harmables, and more misery. The monsters looked at the stupid happy creatures and realized, we are the cost of this. We are the price paid. And so there was only one thing left to do. It was time to pick up their axes and storm the castle. Hello, Doctor. Are you surprised to see me? Ah, you! Stop making feeling things. No! You didn't ask my permission to be born! Ha! I don't need your permission. The happiness of most of the creatures I create justifies your life of suffering.
I know so many people who speak in that way. It's so fucked up.
They serve no function in the universe. They fix nothing. Nonsense. Life is a great idea. Why don't you just kill yourself? Because then I wouldn't be able to stop you. Oh shit, no, don't. But perhaps that example was too fanciful for you to truly understand my point. After all, most of us ended up on this planet due to perfectly well-meaning people, correct? Mothers, fathers. Those that, although having the best intentions, saw fit to create more gladiators to compete and die here. My child will be happy. My child will be a good person.
That picture right there just sums up so much of what is wrong, what is wrong in the world. Like, people just brainlessly breeding and exploiting animals.
My child will be successful. My child will be talented. My child will take care of me. My child will love me. Why force Sisyphus to continue pushing his boulder up the hill generation after generation?
Of Sisyphus, basically, is created and has this pointless life of just pushing this boulder up this hill. It just rolls down again and has to push it up again, and it just does this for eternity, basically. And antinatalists often use it as an analogy for, just life in general, basically, because, like, we are just constantly creating new needs and desires that need to be fulfilled, and then they may be fulfilled, they may not. But then, the beings that have those needs and desires die, and new ones are created, and it's just over and over again, this cycle. And yeah. Can someone just message in the chat and let me know that the stream is still okay? Because I had that weird notification saying that it had disconnected. Yeah, okay, cool. Thanks, Terry. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that was. Anyway, let's keep going.
the dice with someone else's life. Playing Russian roulette with someone else's consciousness. Would you spin the wheel of...
Yeah, Amanda just put in the chat. Yeah, the view count dropped suddenly, which is why I was thinking like, what's going on with? Because I got the notification and the view count dropped. It must have been because you had to refresh it. So maybe some people like ducked out from that. I don't know. But this is actually like a nice visual representation that Amanda's created here, like the spinning wheel, and you spin it and you don't know what you're going to get. I've seen another one, which was, you know, quite morbid and edgy, but I thought it was quite a good visual representation. It was maybe some of you guys have seen it. It's a old black and white photograph, or looks like it's in America, but I'm not sure, of a primary school or nursery, and all the kids are sat there around the table and they're all looking at the camera, and across all of their eyes it's written like, you know, what is wrong with them. So like one of them is like dementia, cancer, you know, horrible accident, whatever. I don't like, you know, loads of things that people can get like in life. And that's like a very, very like simple and good visual representation of all of the things you're exposing people to suffering from when you create them.
Misfortune with someone else's welfare?
And I think like this like philosophy and this way of seeing the world can get so complicated, and I think at the moment most of the people engaging with it, maybe I'm biased because I have like a biased sample, but it seems to me like most of the people engaging with it are quite like au fait with philosophy anyway. You know, they've often got a degree, all of this sort of stuff. Like okay, good, it's all those people are engaged, but I think we need to create like very simple, easily accessible, you know, bite-sized educational videos, images, memes, whatever, that can be, you know, are more accessible to the general populace, who like the vast majority of people did not engage in like philosophical discussion or like moral debate or whatever on basically any level. So I and this is a really simple representation of a concept in antinatalism. So I think Amanda's like done a good job here. And I think we should do more of that.
Would you impose harm? Our charming lady friend who we met just moments ago.
And thank you, Jay. Like thanks for watching.
Was certainly well-meaning. But 9 months later, she gave birth to a monster. I am a monster. There is nothing valuable in the universe. It all means nothing. Suffering means nothing. Suffering means nothing. Suffering means nothing. I am the nihilist.
I was about to say, is this like an edgelord nihilist we've got here?
I am a monster. And I feel nothing. And I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, Terry, I'm not sure if you're talking to me or Amanda there about the movie Us. I don't think I know it, but you're saying it's on Netflix and it'll be good to review it. I don't know how it would work, like me doing this sort of thing with something on Netflix, like with copyright and stuff like that. I don't know how it would work. I don't know if you can do that, but I'll definitely check the film out. And if I think there's like enough in there, then maybe I'll make like a video about it. But because it's on Netflix, I'm not sure how it how it would work. We're doing like a reaction to the whole film, and if it's a feature length film like that, then that it's like very long as well. Like this is just like half an hour.
I don't care. Hello. I'm going to tell you about the
I'm getting major school shooter vibes from this character.
child that I'm going to have. I'm going to teach him to be a nihilist. I'm going to teach him to be selfish. I'm going to teach him to take I'm gonna hurt him. I'm gonna hurt him every day of his life. I'm gonna bite him. I'm gonna starve him. I'm gonna cut him. I'm gonna isolate him. I'm gonna teach him to torture animals. I'm gonna teach him that suffering doesn't matter. I'm gonna waste his suffering. I'm gonna cut him. I'm gonna burn him. Suffering must go on. I'm gonna rape him. I am the servant of the DNA. I will harm. I will create life. And I will laugh. But I see you're becoming distraught. I should hope that you're distraught learning that your entire lives are built out of exploitation and shit. It can be very disorienting. But that is the dilemma of the true atheist. It is accepting the fact that you're part of a waste engine, an engine that has 99 times more friction than function. That it is crude forces in control of precious commodities. Gladiators. We are all gladiators. Sent into battle by the DNA, our bodies and everything else we exist as are but the gladiator suits that the DNA wears, to compete for no purpose against other feeling things in the holocaust of survival.
Hey, Kevin.
That's what our existence overall has been made out of. That is the heap of corpses, both animal and human animal, our civilization now sits on. It's break a statue to make a statue. The basic function is the same. The function is survival by any means necessary. Whatever can happen, can happen. No umpires, no rules, no Marcus of Queensberry sophistication, just a blood sport, for nothing in the end, just a raised hand. I win, you die. Cannibalism. Cannibalism has many forms. It is not necessarily simply the act of one human eating another, but a word that perfectly describes the obscenity of the natural meat grinder. Make no mistake, nature is the cause of most of the suffering on this planet. Nature is a brutal, brainless force, completely unsympathetic to the agony of the neurons and consciousnesses in its path.
I think this scene here, when Amanda's like cycling through the different animals, and she's got like costumes on, I think this scene got you. Maybe we can speak about this later, Amanda. You go on like a TV show, right?
Consider just for a moment this one little horror. A panicked baby elephant, lost, alone, whose mother has been killed in the belly of your precious Mother Nature. Why? 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 You killed Mama! You killed Mama! You killed my Mama! I'm scared! I'm scared! Mama! Mama! Mama, they're hurting me! Mama, they're hurting me! Mama, they're hurting me! I'm thirsty! Oh, there's things chasing me everywhere! I'm gonna die out here! Mama! 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 What of the slaughterhouse pig, who lives an existence of abject misery, all for the benefit of our addictions? Why won't you help me? They're hurting me so bad. Please stop hurting me. It hurts. Please stop hurting me. Why won't you help me? Why won't you help me? Why won't you make them stop? And what would be your glib response to his agony? That's just life? That's just nature? And what if the animals could not only speak, but truly had the time and ability to think about what they would really like to say to us?
Yeah, honestly, like just going back to that pig, like I don't know, before I was vegan, like I used to be pretty brainless, to be honest. So like maybe I shouldn't be too harsh on people, but like honestly, people who go out and hurt animals, or people that like the suffering of animals is brought to their attention and they just dismiss it, like what a way to be a cunt, man. Like that is so low. Like, especially if we're talking about domesticated animals, like these are just because they've been bred in such a way where they're much more innocent, right? Like a pig is more innocent than like a lion. Like, not to say we shouldn't have sympathy for a lion, you know, in some cases, like, you know, they also did not choose to exist and be in the situation they're in. But like, especially if you think of like, yeah, like farm animals, like they've just been bred to be so passive and vulnerable and like easy to hurt. And like people are just so like willing to impose suffering on them for such trivial reasons, and then like just dismiss that suffering. And it's just like, I don't know, I just, when I like see people like literally sometimes I'll be stood in in front of someone, they'll say something that's like dismissive of it, and I don't say it out loud usually, like I have done in the past, but like in my head I'm just looking at them and I'm just thinking like, you're a cunt, like you're scum, you're like you're the worst fucking, like, if we had to rank all humans on like how low they are, like you're so fucking low down, like you're just a piece of shit, you know. And like I think people are selective, but like I don't know, some people might say, oh, I'm harsh for judging people like that, but like everyone's going to take the same opinion when it comes to like a child abuser. Like, I'm just consistent about it.
How do you think the animals would condemn life if they could? How many of them would demand Dr. Frankenstein's red button? What memes do you think would fall from their lips? Your children will be the rapists, murderers, pedophiles, and torturers of the future. And your children will be their raped, murdered, molested, and tortured victims as well. We want the right to not exist. We want the right to say no, to be no individual, to be no animal, to be no gender, to be no nationality, to be no winner, to be no loser, no consumer, to be no reproducer, to be no cannibal, to be no addict. The right to be in no life, no domain, no kingdom, no phylum, no class, no order, no family, no genus, no species. The right to say no to all of it. The failures are brutal, and the victories are shallow. The universe did not spend 4 billion years to create a grand intelligence. It spent that time creating the best gladiators, who could best extract their survival through force. You cannot, in fact, harmlessly extract your satisfaction in life. You will have a harm footprint. Rationalizing waste to indulge personal desires. The utter debauchery of I want in a world where it's all paid for in a currency no one can afford. And we do it all on an island planet in the universe, a cannibal island, Earth. But some gladiators, the graceful ones, the elegant gladiators, begin to see over the maze of desire, learn to throw down their swords of selfishness, and try, to the best of their abilities, to do their janitorial duty. And in constant pain, breeders take when they give. DNA made you addicted. Now, on to
I was actually getting into that song, Amanda. Why did you cut that off? Fuck's sake.
consumption.
Like, I know it's a bit of a morbid subject, but that would be a great song to sing around a campfire.
I'm going to eat you. That's just the way things work out, you know, the cycle of life thing and all.
No, you can't eat me. My comfort and existence are worth just as much as yours. You must not be so rude to my beauty. In any case,
snake eating its own tail. But we are slightly more than just bacteria. We are bacteria with brains. And so finally, we have come to addiction. And what better example of a brain than the man who calls himself the natalist, moving because of reoccurring hungers. But we are designed to be motivated, not satisfied. I want! I want! I want! I want! We cannot help but feed on the illusion of pleasure. We cannot help but selfishly chase the cheese. Most of our pleasures are just eliminating our burdens, however. The pleasure is just a relief from the deprivation. A negative had to already exist to get to that positive. Regardless of the desire, regardless of want or need, big or small, grandiose, normal or eccentric, the point is you are driven as a need machine by your deprivation. Life makes monsters, like me. And now I want one of my own. Addiction created the natalist nihilist. Want and need created a harmable and a harm engine, possessing of both a bad philosophy and a bad psychology. He was a relief from deprivation. He was wanted and needed, but he was bad. And the bad apples are always more poisonous than the good apples are pure. But EFILism is knowing that life is an imposition. EFILism is understanding that all value in the universe is derived from the conscious experience of sentient feeling creatures. Understanding may come fast. Understanding may come slow.
By creating life, you are imposing suffering.
But when the natalist nihilist was exposed to these ideas, a war of memes began in his brain.
Hey Gary, I saw that response you did to that natalist nihilist guy.
Yeah, I just don't understand why people can't get this. I mean, fuck, it's not that fucking complicated. But they can't understand that there's no more precious thing than the capacity of a consciousness to experience a sensation of torture. Too confusing. I mean, the fact that they can't concede that all real value is generated in a vulnerable, sensitive, feeling mind defies reasonable explanation. It's just too stupid.
Hey, look, there he is.
Wow, what is that all about?
All right, asshole. We get the point. You've wasted enough time already.
Suffering is delicious! Suffering is delicious! Suffering is delicious! Suffering is delicious!
I've been in like fucking Zoom calls where you get like trolls come in like this.
Suffering is delicious!
You're a cockroach. That's right, a cockroach that has no interest in being anything better than that. You're a cockroach. A fucking cockroach.
I'm just getting some warnings that the stream is skipping some frames. So like hopefully it's alright. I've got the stream up and it looks fine. But sorry if it's skipping some frames. I don't actually know why that is. It's not overheating at all. So I'm not sure why that's happening.
A cockroach.
EFILism is the janitorial duty of trying to have a conversation with the human race about wasted suffering, and the responsibility of manufacturing a graceful exit. The responsibility, even if you are a monster, even if you are already a werewolf, to search for and find the perfect silver bullet, the perfect argument, and to fire that logic, that understanding, into the other brains around you playing the game. You can try to make people understand that there is a
Yeah, why is it Yeah, it is skipping a bit on the stream now, and Amanda's put in there that it's lagging quite bad for her. It seems to be. I don't really know what I can do, to be honest. Like, it's not overheating. Let's just see if if it gets better. There's only like 7 minutes left as well. It might be that I've been sharing my screen for so long. Like, it might be that. So, like, hopefully it'll get better when this is done.
Truth, and it's that the design is faulty and that we are doomed. But you can try not to doom anyone else as much as possible. You can try not to impose as much as possible. You can recognize that just being alive makes you a taker, that your every happiness is paid for in another sentient creature's suffering. You can recognize that you are, in fact, an asshole, and you can try not to be as much of an asshole as possible. You can try to understand all the myriad ways in which your sentience is dangerous in this world, and you can try not to impose as much of that dangerousness on the rest of the world as possible. You will, in fact, have an impact. You can use what power you have to end the suffering. I ask you, what has life accomplished that is worth the price of the suffering? What are we really doing here that is worth preserving? DNA isn't doing anything elegant or intelligent. And in fact, before intelligence can do anything, it needs a problem. Something needs to be put in a state of jeopardy. You have to create the victim before intelligence can come to the rescue as Superman. You may wish to preserve Superman, as you have become addicted to his greatness. But you can't keep Superman. You can't keep the value of intelligence without also keeping the horror, without also keeping the victim. What right do you have to enslave more janitors? The burden is heavy, the janitor's work is never done, and until the job is done, the janitor can't go home. What right do you have to keep resurrecting consciousness back here? Stop waking the dead. Do we mourn for the non-existent Martians? No. The universe doesn't need us, and there will be no deprivation without us when we...
I fucked myself over there. I put myself on mute. I said that was classic Benatar right there.
finally come to no longer exist. Beyond your addiction, beyond your desire, beyond your moments of glory and ambition, beyond what you need life to be, what is it accomplishing? Besides, ouch, 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 ouch. Some of us are lost in the maze, hoping to find a minotaur, hoping to be the minotaur. But some of us learn to look over the maze and to finally see the game and what we're really caught up in. We learn to understand ourselves as insidious mechanisms, to see the inefficiency of the game itself.
Yeah, I think antinatalists are a bit like, well, you can use this analogy with a lot of things. Vegans are like this as well. You know that famous picture of, I think it's in the Nazi regime, there's loads of soldiers and they're all like saluting. And there's like one soldier in the middle who's just got his arm folded and he's clearly just like, nah, fuck this. Like that. That's kind of what antinatalists are like. They're looking around themselves and thinking like, seeing so much fucked stuff and like seeing so many people around them just like just fucking shooting more people into this mess. And antinatalists are like, I'm not going to do that because that seems like a dumb idea. Like there's nothing to be gained for the person you're creating. And there's so much that they can lose out on.
All the traps and all the risks. And over time, your mission back in the maze will change from one of selfishness to one of productivity. The minimizing of the harm and the maximizing of the comfort of the whole game. Every gladiator can eventually learn to see over the maze game. Even I did. We are cockroaches by nature. That's what we are.
That is so true. Like, anyone can. Like, I was such an automaton of Western culture. Like, I did not think outside the box at all. I was just a complete, straight down the line, Fiat 500, normal person. and like now look what I'm doing. Like not that I'm some sort of like Jesus or anything, but like I've changed so much. So like yeah, anyone can like
bugs, and we have no interest in doing anything better than that. I'm a cockroach. All we can do is keep our cockroachery to a minimum. But even if our cockroach level is at a minimum, make no mistake, we're still just cockroaches. Life is the sad and tragic story of nature, and humanity has done nothing to write a better chapter in the life book. It's just simply not good enough. And so it's an insufficient game. Like tic-tac-toe, once you're intelligent enough, there's no playability. It's a game for dumb things. Smart things aren't going to find it graceful enough, or fair enough, or just enough, or reasonable or sensible enough. They're just going to find it expensive, and futile, and foolish. There is no need served here beyond what we create, and it's simply wrong to create need for no need. We only ask for the fail-safe. Is it really too much to ask that you be risk-averse? If you could go back in time, find the first DNA molecule and smash it, would you do it? Would you do the right thing? We want
I'd fucking pile drive the motherfucker.
extinction. We want a graceful exit. We want it, and we will argue for it. Your children, still yet in the womb now, those not yet fully imposed upon, will argue for it. We will not go away. You cannot dispose of us as easily as you did the Cathari. We are here because of memes. We are here because of logic. Our parents weren't antinatalists. We are your children. And you cannot stop us from looking over the maze and not being satisfied enough with chasing cheese at the expense of stealing it from the other rats. So how will you respond? Will you make a response of some kind? J'accuse. You now stand accused. You now stand accountable to the future. You can't run away from the truth. The memes will have their war inside your brain. There is a truth, and it is accessible, and that truth can be proven by argument and evidence. Let the truth have its day. All the truth needs is a fair fight, and the truth will win, and then it will be the possession of the future. All the best. Goodbye.
Okay, so that is it. For anyone who's never seen the EFIList before, that is it. And now we have a special guest. So let me just work my magic and get them on. So if anyone has not worked it out already, and if you haven't, I don't know how many brain cells you have, but obviously the only guest, only special guest that we can have for this live stream is Amanda, who made the film, who's actually been watching the stream as well. Okay, Amanda, you're there. Can we hear you?
Indeed I am. Hello.
Yes, nice. Okay. We finally got there. Jesus, I didn't realize this stream.
We did it.
I did not realize this stream
Yay.
was going to be...
You did a wonderful job, Lawrence. Thank you so much.
Christ.
It happens. This is life. This is what we signed up for, right?
Okay, cool. I think everything's working. Your audio is coming through. If you could just speak again.
Hello.
Okay, yeah, your audio is coming through. And it's on the stream. Cool. Anyway, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I had a great time. I haven't seen the EFIList in a long, long time myself. I really, really appreciate you doing this today. Especially considering that you're not feeling well, and I hope that you continue to feel better. But
it's all good.
It's
just life, isn't it? It's just sort of like
this is, like I said, this is what we signed up for, right?
Yeah,
this is our choice.
But yeah, like I said, so at the start of the stream, I was saying that I haven't seen it since I first since we like first met each other, basically.
Yeah.
Which was like we figured out the other day, like 2-ish years ago or something like that. So I could remember some of it, but I couldn't remember all of it. And I also remember watching your appearance on that show, which came off the back of that. Like I'm gonna go through like questions because this is my first stream with a guest. So
deeply honored.
So I had to prepare so I don't fuck it up. But because I brought it up before, so what was the deal with this show that you went on?
Yeah, so part of the movie went viral. The baby elephant part went sort of slightly viral, which was a huge surprise because I had so every little bit of the movie was like I would shoot it and then I would immediately put the raw footage on my YouTube channel. And the baby elephant scene got very little response. I mean, I had like 3 thumbs up and like 100 views in like 2 months. Everybody was just kind of trying to ignore it as best they could. But then somebody posted it on Reddit and somewhere on Reddit on like a cringe forum or cringe subreddit or something.
Do you know who that was?
No, I don't. If I went back in my old notes and everything, I could probably find screenshots, but I don't remember. So it wasn't somebody that I knew.
Yeah, so it wasn't anything that you intentionally tried to like. Obviously, you intentionally put the videos on your YouTube channel, but it was something that just like organically happened.
It just organically happened,
shit.
And then it started getting reposted to Facebook and to I think Vine that was still active at the time, different places, and so it had like 100,000 views here, 30,000 views here, and then all of a sudden I got a message from 2 different producers of the Comedy Central show Tosh.0 wanting to fly me down to LA to be on the show, and how could I refuse?
Yeah, that's mad. Did you know about Tosh.0 already? Like, was it something that you knew of as a show, or was it completely new to you? Like when they...
Yeah, so I mean, before I started making Antinatalist videos, I made Dragon Ball toy videos where I dressed up as the characters and screamed and played accordion and was, did all that. And a lot of people would be like, "You should be on Tosh. You should be," So I had been. I had been kind of tangentially aware of the show for a long time because of that. I'd been kind of making that kind of content that was kind of perfect for that kind of show for a long time.
Yeah. And how did it actually go when you were on?
I mean, it was great. I mean, I had the time of my life. Are you kidding? I mean, it was an amazing experience. I mean, they were incredibly receptive to the idea because I tell you, like when they first called me up and I had a discussion with the producer, one of the producers, and I. Because if you watch the baby elephant scene, you don't necessarily get antinatalism from that scene. Like,
well, and
so
also
you're
probably just visually distracted by the fact that you're looking at someone dressed as an elephant with blood all over them.
Yeah. So when I revealed that was what was behind all of this, that it was sentiocentric antinatalism, they were totally shocked over the phone. And I actually kind of thought like, oh, I fucked it up. Like, this is not going to happen. They don't want to deal with this. But then I got a call from them the next day and we're like, we had the most amazing conversations, like, talking about this at the studio. And we definitely want to do it. So it just, it's just amazing how it works out sometimes. It's just all the pieces fell into place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because like people never I guess they're like ideas that people have never really considered before. Because I had a similar, and I'm not gonna make this about me. We'll get back to the questions about the EFIList soon. But like when I went on the Channel 4 video, I had a similar experience when I was talking to the people behind the scenes there. They all said, this is an idea they never heard about. It was part of a series of different topics. They said this was the topic they were most excited about because all the others, were like about topics that everyone kind of knows about. Yeah. And they were all, trying to pick holes in the philosophy and stuff like that. And they were all like excited. They were like, oh, I've got something that you haven't thought about or something like that. So, but not in like not in a way where they're actually trying to like, not in a bad way. Just they were genuinely excited and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was really nice. But anyway, okay, cool. So.
Well,
like,
but that's an important thing for. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to say it's an important thing I think for antinatalists to keep in mind, because I think we're always very identified with people who are going to hate this and they're going to be afraid of it and it's going to get a horrible reaction and we're going to end up homeless and starving and like I mean I mean it's easy to catastrophize what the reaction to these ideas would be, and I'm not saying that that's impossible or that you won't sometimes get those reactions from people. But, the vast majority of people that I've interacted with on these ideas are really fascinated. They want to have these conversations and they're amazed that they've never had these conversations with anybody else before. And that's important, I think, for people to, for prospective antinatalists who might become content producers to keep in mind.
Yeah. No, 100%. So yeah, where did the idea for making a film come from? So and like why in this style? So it's very like you use like, is it called stop motion and stuff? You use stop motion quite a lot. And
yeah, there's stop motion. It's stylistically it kind of goes back to that concept of unintelligent design, right? Like it wouldn't be appropriate for the movie to be highly highly polished, because this is making a comment on the fact that we're just this accident of biology, basically this accident of aberrant chemistry, and we're not put together well, and so to show the pig with like ears just taped on, it's just all metaphoring the fact that we're these badly put together meat machines. So kind of like intentional. I mean, part of it does, I fully admit, come down to I had no idea what I was doing. I had very little time. I had very little money. All that is true. And I also I have a deep love of experimental filmmaking, like kind of slipshod filmmaking. Like films by.
So what did you call it? Slipshot.
Slipshod. Like just
like slapdash, slap together sort
slapdash.
of. Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
I love that. And that's one of the reasons that I fell in love with YouTube initially, because it's like you're constantly dealing with people who want to tell stories, want to design narratives, and they don't necessarily have access to resources. They don't necessarily have a lot of money, but they're just making it happen with whatever in front of them. And so I wanted to keep that energy, make it look like a school play. Amanda and I talked about that a lot. I love that. I love that kind of style, like filmed stage productions, movies like by John Waters. I mean, those were hugely influential to EFIList.
So, but what?
Yeah.
But what? Like, why did you want to make a film in the first place? Like, I'm assuming obviously you wanted to spread the idea. That is kind of obvious. But like, why did you choose? You could have written like a book or done a coloring book. Or, like Life Sucks did the coloring books idea. But like, why did you pick like a film?
Well, I've always wanted to be a filmmaker. I'd made one short film before this, which but I'd never made a live action film. And at that time in antinatalist history, when I first started this project, it was like 2013. One of the biggest conversations is we need a movie, we need a documentary, and then the other part of the conversation is like, Amanda has said all kinds of great stuff, but like. He's kind of an acquired taste, and like people can't necessarily handle it.
To say the least.
So how do you migrate his words to like a different medium? And people like Grey Tide Show had done that, taking clips of Amanda and putting it to music, and that had a lot of, that gave those words to a lot of people that wouldn't find them otherwise. And I think the newest, instance of this happening is like you said, Matt's Life Sucks' coloring book. It's just a way of sort of like taking the same material and putting it into a different voice, putting it into a different medium, making it more consumable. So I wanted to try my hand at that. I was in Mendham's version of antinatalism was my first exposure to the philosophy. And I think it's very good. I stand by that it's very good, important antinatalism. And so I wanted to try my hand at, repackaging it. Now, my way of repackaging it was to package it in Amanda style, which is very weird. So it's there's a bit of failure involved in like making it more consumable. I don't think that I'm necessarily more consumable than Amendum in a lot of ways. But regardless, it definitely it had its successes in getting it to a different type of audience and migrating it away from YouTube a little bit. So I'm pretty proud of what it's done.
Yeah, talking about audiences, I do actually have like a list of questions, but I've fucked the order up. So
it's okay.
So like talking about audiences, maybe I'm making this up, but did you say that it got into one film festival?
It got into quite a number of film festivals.
Oh, really?
Actually,
oh, nice.
yeah. I mean, it got into. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
No, well, I was just gonna say. So, like, did you submit them for them, or again, did it happen organically where someone liked it and something, or what?
So the first time it screened, so I should say, part of why the movie got made was also because I was in graduate school at the time, and the EFIList was actually my graduate thesis project.
Oh.
And so it was made within that those mostly within those 2 years of being in grad school.
Yeah.
And so it did premiere. I shouldn't exactly call it a festival, but the first time it premiered was at the Gene Siskel Film Center, and it got a really huge response there. And because of that, it had an easier time getting into festivals. But yeah, no, from there, once the film was completed, I did submit it to many film festivals, as is often the case. It gets in, films get into a tiny percentage of what you apply them to. But yeah, and I unfortunately, the vast majority of the festivals that I had success with only accepted the short version of the film. So we've just watched the current long version of the film. The 16-minute version is the one that most people have seen.
Oh, wow. So it's the half, basically. Well,
basically
less than half. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that's been an interesting aspect of being the maker of this movie, is learning how much people can take of both the message and the style. And we'll talk more about this later, but I mean, the EFIList is a work in progress, and there's a great deal of as that progress goes on, a big part of that is how to edit it into an even more consumable bite-sized piece, so that perhaps it has a chance of reaching a larger audience next time.
So what was the what was the reception actually like from the people at the film festivals? Because I'm assuming most of the people at these film festivals are just like regular people who like films, right? They don't necessarily have any. They've never had any interaction with like antinatalism or EFILism before. Right. I'm assuming. Right. So like, what was their what was the reception like for them? And then also, as like a second question, what was the reception like from like the antinatalist and EFIList world as well?
Yes. So I was only able to attend 3 of the screenings that the EFIList has had, because most of the screenings took place in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. It played in Germany, I think 3 or 4 times. So I wasn't able to go to any of those. From what I've been told, it had very good responses at those screenings. I have been, like, when it premiered at the Gene Siskel Film Center, it was rapturous, like rapturous applause and laughter, which is great. Is exactly what I wanted. Really strong response from there. I have been at screenings where nobody says anything and everybody is in shocked silence and no one will look at me, and that's fine, but I mean, look, I mean, I've been very lucky. I think that the vast majority of the response that I've received has been very positive. I mean, I have only had one instance when I first started making the film. Again, this was when I was still in grad school. I showed some very early kind of test footage, none of which actually made it into the finished film, at a critique of mine, and it went very badly. Like, I had one professor that was deeply offended, wouldn't stay in the room, was pacing back and forth outside of the room, made all kinds of accusations of like, you're going to poison the drinking water, and you're going to do this and do that, and you're a bigot, and blah 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 blah. And
were they religious?
No, I
Oh.
don't think so. Who knows? Who knows what their deal was?
Yeah.
That was I wish I had video of that occasion. I mean, there was another professor that was, I think, really upset that he didn't know what this subject was, so he was like Googling it on his phone and like reading parts of the Wikipedia, like somehow I had never seen that, like he was informing me of something. So anyway, yeah, so that was like the worst of the reaction that I've received from the general public or from the academic public that I was involved in at the time. As far as the reaction from the antinatalist community, it's been very interesting. So I think that, one of the most difficult things for a lot of antinatalists to come to terms with is that we're not going to be taken seriously right off the bat. It's like, and of course I want that. Everybody wants that. We all want to be taken seriously. We all want this subject to be taken seriously. But sometimes you have to use tools like humor in order to get the message through. And that's been a major point of contention between me and a lot of the antinatalist community, because I'm more than willing to kind of be the clown in order to get the message in. But people don't want that. They want it to be presented in this very straightforward, academic only, no joke kind of way. And unfortunately, and look, it takes all types. This is not an argument against those methods. I just think that we need both.
It's about diversity of.
It's about
approach.
diversity. We need different flavors of antinatalism, and I maintain that a humorous approach to antinatalism is still important. So I produced this, but before this, I also produced a whole series called Antinatal Funnies. And so anyway, one of the most interesting things about the EFIList and the antinatalist community is that, obviously EFILism and antinatalism are kind of at war with each other often, unfortunately, very unfortunately. And there's been a lot of drama over the last 3 years between the relationship between the two of them. But it's always been interesting to me that even in the midst of that, the EFIList hasn't been the target of a lot of that debate and ire from the other side. And I have ideas on why that is, but I don't really know. So I think at the end of the day, I'm very pleased with the response from the antinatalist community.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you about using, well, one, on a basic level, just using like a diversity of approaches.
Yeah.
Because, like different strokes for different folks, I guess, is the basic sort of thing. But also with humor, I definitely think even if you use humor and it doesn't like change people's minds there and then, it can definitely get people used to the ideas. Because like I got a video coming up recently about Ricky Gervais and some of the things he said and how and like obviously he's like very mainstream, very famous comedian, and he's made some jokes that if you twisted them just a bit, they'd be very antinatalist jokes, and they get big laughs, so I think like it could definitely be a way of at least getting people more used to the ideas, and then they're more they would then be more receptive to the serious conversation. Even if it's not the humor that convinces them itself, it can definitely play a part. I 100% agree with you. Yeah.
It's just, and Mendham does talk about how it just put it in their heads. It doesn't, it's great when you can convince people to go vegan or go antinatalist or all these other things, but you just, don't start there. Don't start with that pressure of having to convince people. You just want people to put it on the marketplace of ideas, within their heads. And if you can get that far, you got to be at least somewhat satisfied with that.
Yeah. It's often referred to like in vegan circles as like planting a seed in someone's head.
Yeah, there you go. Sure.
But yeah, so what was the hardest part of like producing it?
That's I mean, so there's a couple of different ways I can answer this. I mean, one, so a big part of making the EFIList was also an archival project of the videos of Mendham. So it was a huge process of watching all of these videos, transcribing all of these videos, and then from capturing all of that dialogue, resculpting it into a script format. And then how do you make a fucking movie out of that? How do you find a narrative within that? How do you find characters within that? And I got kind of lucky because the language of EFILism and the language of Inmendum is very metaphoric. There's all kinds of metaphors that can be extracted from the things that he says. So he would talk about this idea of the janitor this, the janitor that, and so I'm like, oh, okay, that's a character, the Russian roulette, or all of these different things that ideas or visual metaphors that come up. So it was easy. It was hard to get there, and I got kind of lucky that the pieces fell into place. But the process of getting to that point was difficult. But I think that the most difficult thing was this idea of how do you insert some sort of narrative into that. And that's why we kind of got stuck with a little bit more natalist nihilist stuff than even I would like there to be in the film. But I felt like, okay, well, if this is a video essay about antinatalism, if it's a video essay about EFILism and antinatalism, and it also needs to serve the purpose of being a film with a narrative, how do I pull those elements in? Does it need this villain character? Does it need, I think that was, I don't think that ended up the way that I had really intended, to be honest with you. But like I said, I think there's unique challenges in trying to make a movie about a philosophy. And it was kind of I was punching a little high above my weight doing that as a first-time filmmaker. And again, that's sort of why the film is a work in progress. I mean, I hope that I will get another stab at perhaps perfecting some of those elements and doing some of this re-editing that I'd like to do.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question. Like, let's say you'd never made the EFIList before, but you had the idea. Like, if you were going to make it today, how would you do it differently?
I would definitely cut a lot of the janitor, even though I love the janitor, but there is too much of him. And that was kind of, he ended up being a bit of a crutch because I could always kind of go back to that material.
Yeah.
I was so rushed making the EFIList for various reasons. I just was under so much pressure to finish this goddamn thing that all of addiction, the whole addiction sequence, was basically written, edited, filmed, and like released within like 24 hours.
Oh,
insane, just absolutely insane. Like not a good position to be in.
Yeah.
And I genuinely hate the way some of that came out. There's parts of it that I really love, but I mean, it's not what it needs to be. So I do have plans to reshoot the entire addiction sequence. And, so one of the things Inmendum talks about is like, by procreating, by continuing life, we're just perpetuating Shakespeare plays forever. And so I had the idea at some point of like, well, maybe I should take one of those Shakespeare plays and EFILize it. And I had wanted to do King Lear for the longest. I thought about Macbeth. I thought about King Lear, but those are all very complicated stories with, it's hard to kind of mash those down. So when I do get a chance, hopefully in the near future, we'll see what happens. I will be reshooting the addiction sequence as an EFILized version of Romeo and Juliet, which I think is a very good story to liken to the concept of addiction. There's all kinds of correlates. Love is addiction. They're like these come from these rich families, addicted to wealth, and it's just easy to kind of metaphor addiction through that story. There's actually some very antinatalistic kind of lines within the original text. So I'm very excited to do those parts, and I'm very excited to play both Romeo and Juliet and do things with each other. And that I think will be very funny. I mean, unfortunately, the movie it starts out very funny. The Frankenstein stuff is very funny. It lives up to being a kind of dark comedy, and then it just gets progressively less funny, which was not my intention. So I want to try to insert that comedy back into the film. I don't know if any of this is an appropriate answer to what you just asked, but I would do things very differently. I would definitely cut out. I would keep in a lot of the first initial scenes of the Natalist Nihilist, but I wouldn't try for this ham-fisted plot line of like the natalist nihilist is the janitor. The janitor used to be the natalist nihilist, and even though I would keep in the whole concept of like minds can change and we can become through argumentation and ethics different. Our lives can take different paths. I would do my best to do a better job of telling that part of the story. Yeah.
And would you? So, let's say you made the the EFIList when you did, and time wasn't as much of a restriction, but you also had access to any creative technology you wanted. Would you have? Because obviously you had a certain style you wanted to make it in, but I'm sure that there were some things that you made it in the way that you did because of the limitations on you in terms of just the resources you had access to. Is there anything in terms of like creative tools or technology that you would like have wanted to use or want to use in like if you're going to like redo it and like and how do you think that would change it?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, it's a difficult one to answer because in some respects I would keep everything exactly the way that I had it then, and in some ways I'm a little worried about inserting new footage into it because so the film was entirely shot on flip cams. These were
these were
the cameras back in the old days for shooting vlogs. So these are the two cameras that I used to shoot the EFIList. And just a quick aside, the last scene that I shot of the EFIList, so flip cams have a little red button, to start recording. The last scene that I shot of the EFIList, the red button fell off of this camera. These are the two, these are the two cameras I use to shoot, thousands of vlogs and the EFIList. This is one of Mendham's flip cams. So thousands and thousands and thousands of Antinatalist videos have been shot with these three cameras. And I, even though by today's standards, these cameras don't produce footage that looks particularly great, I would have a hard time not trying to track down more flip cams and shooting new footage with these cameras because they were so much a part of that time for me, and they are a piece of like I think what does for me make the film kind of a documentary. It's a documentary capturing that time of antinatalist history, and these cameras are a big part of that. But I would love to be able to like afford like a bigger studio where I could build bigger sets. I could build sort of like more of a world that these characters could exist in. And I would also love the ability to bring in more people with more specializations than I have, because I did basically make the entire film myself. I don't know anything about lighting. I probably wouldn't involve too much cinematography from a proper cinematographer, but I would love to be able to just get more, people to do proper sound, people to do proper lighting, at least in parts of it. Just to do the things that I'm not good at would be great. But other than that, I don't know. I would hesitate. I mean, for future film project, I'd like maybe the production values to be a lot higher, but I would try to, for the most part, with some exception, stick to this kind of school play stylistic choices that were intentional. Yeah.
And like obviously don't share anything that needs to be kept like under wraps. But have you got any? Well, no, that's too broad a question. Is there any project similar to the EFIList? So maybe like another film that you plan to make in maybe let's say like the next decade or something like that.
Hopefully.
Probably I'm assuming on a different subject. I don't know if you're thinking of making a second film on EFILism, then but I would assume you'd probably branch out into other.
Yeah, I don't know if I would make another film specifically about EFILism, but definitely and I mean I don't know. That's a great question. I'm not sure. I mean, definitely about other forms of antinatalism, though. So I've long been working on this project called Antinatal Mary, which is a musical retelling of, like, antinatalist retelling of the birth of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And who knows when, if that's ever going to be finished. It's a very complicated project, but I hope it gets done at some point. And Mendham and I have kind of like a loose idea to make a courtroom film about life being on trial, and I hope that will come to some fruition at some point. It's kind of already been done since, because of Capernaum, which is the Arabic film about this was way before the Raphael Samuel or any of that, but kind of like an antinatalist version of Marat Sade, if anybody out there knows what that is. There are some movies that I am in the process of making that are not particularly connected to antinatalism. I am making a sequel to my first movie, Confessions of an Underage Masturbator, which is not nearly as scary as people make it out to be. You can go see it. Was on YouTube for 10 years. You can go see it on Facebook, blah, 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 blah. And I also I'm hopefully actually in the next week or so shooting some of the final scenes for a movie called Reverie, which is a movie that I have been working on and off for like a decade. Physically, the character of the natalist nihilist is a big part, not philosophically or mentally, but that character kind of plays into Reverie, and it is connected to antinatalism in the sense that it's about being an extinctionist, and it's about sort of being a ghost in a world that you advocate being gone, and also being somebody that's very identified with the past, like living in a nostalgic reverie while also being an extinctionist. That's sort of what Reverie is about. And yeah, there's other projects in the works which probably will end up as films. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. So how did you call it? The Reverie?
Reverie. So Reverie is like being lost in
okay.
thought and the past. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'd never heard that word before. So is that one you would like hope to be out soon, in like the next couple of years?
Well, I would hope so.
I guess life gets in the way and stuff.
It's been a long gestation period already. I've shot quite a lot of Reverie.
Nice.
But it's the last 3 years. It's proven the scenes that I need to shoot have been fucking impossible to shoot.
Well, I've heard Tom Cruise is hard to work with. So.
Yeah, Tom Cruise, all the celebs that I routinely, right. No, I mean, look, so I have to be in costume, right? So the only day that I can really get away with shooting the scenes that I need is Halloween. Well, 2019 it snowed on Halloween, and then the last 2 years we've had a pandemic. So hopefully this is my year where I can go out and be dressed up as the natalist nihilist and shoot the scenes I need to in roller skates.
Oh, nice! I honestly I can't wait to see that. just the like like the image of you going around. I'm assuming like it's going to be shot in like a cityscape or something. Dressed up in that way on roller skates. Yeah.
Hopefully it's not going to be how I completely break my neck, because I haven't been on roller skates in many, many years, but we'll see.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, Lawrence.
No, it's all good. I'm getting over it. I think that's everything that I had, and I don't want the stream to go on too long, because I don't know if I'm going to get in too many because of the issues I had with the first one. I'm now worried the longer we go on, the longer it might run into others.
Problems.
Yeah. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It was great to watch the EFIList again. And I'm looking forward to all the other projects you're working on.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you. So it was great for me to watch. Listen, I haven't watched the EFIList in a long time. I couldn't watch it for years. I couldn't even look at it.
Why? Because as in you didn't want to watch yourself, or
pain, just absolute pain. These things never turn out the way you really want, and
I get it. Yeah.
It's the closest I will come to childbirth, right? Is these projects, and it's just a painful experience. As much as wonderful as it also is, it's also very painful. But no, I'm very grateful, Lawrence. Thank you so much for doing this today, especially considering you're not feeling well. I hope you feel better, and thank you for all your contributions to with your channel and the handbook and everything that you do. It's great work. So
No,
going.
thank you. I mean, you've been in the game, so like if I'm in the game as long as you've already been in the game,
God
like
help
hopefully
you.
I'll have produced as much. Yeah, exactly. I will be
You will
withered
be.
and old and close to
Your hair
death.
will be gray, just like mine.
I'll probably look more like the baby elephant than I do as me now.
Well, we'll try to do what's necessary to not let that happen. But no, you're definitely. I can tell you're in it for the long game. So
Yeah,
that's
hopefully.
good. That's good. There's not enough of us, so more power to you.
But cool. Thanks so much again, Amanda. I'll speak to you later. I'm just going to close off the stream.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, who came and watched.
And I'll see you later.
See you later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Cool. So that was Amanda. Always good to talk to Amanda. Like she's helped me with so much. But yeah, I think that was the stream. So thanks for watching. Let me know. So basically, what I'm going to do is take the two different streams, splice them together, re-upload it. So it'll be gone for a bit, and then it'll be back. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. But thanks for joining, and let me know what you thought about the EFIList in the comments, and my conversation with Amanda. And I'll have a chill stream at some point to talk about like other things. I don't want to put too much in this one because this is just supposed to be about the EFIList. But yeah, thanks for watching. And I will see you in the next one.